Right, well, he's talking about wealth being generated from work, and the problem is these days we have a lot of wealth generated, but there's no work, right? So the so-called altcoin market is without work. The NFT market, there's no work involved. In various other pursuits of Wall Street, it's just workless environment of pushing buttons. This is creating an environment of lawlessness, and it's creating an environment of plunder.
Hello and welcome to Wealthy Value. In today's video, Bitcoin maximalists and hosts of Max and Stacy Report, Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert talk about the Bitcoin versus altcoin industry, Central African Republic's idea to launch a new cryptocurrency called Sango Coin, and the possible dangers of these cryptocurrencies. They also explain how Bitcoin adoption has helped El Salvador's economy in reaching new highs and why institutional and nation-wide adoption of Bitcoin will increase in the coming years. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video where Max and Stacy look at property and plunder and the origins of shitcoins as a means to plunder your Bitcoin property. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the post notifications. Let's dive right into the video.
Where this drama is being played out is in countries and economies and towns where we've seen what happens when the altcoiners come in and they milk the market and they bilk the market, and we're seeing that played out in the DeFi space. So what these guys have done is they'd have to go to far afield, to little countries in Africa now that maybe haven't heard about what's happening in the DeFi space yet, and they're picking their pockets. So they're just fanning out to wherever they can find suckers, whether it's Sango Coin or any of these other DeFi or ICOs or altcoins. They're all terrible.
The IMF, the European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, the Bank of International Settlements have already warned you what's going to happen. They've told you. They told you that Bitcoin is an escape hatch. They didn't say that about Sango Coin. They didn't say that about Ethereum. They didn't say that about BNB. They didn't say that about Solana. They didn't say it about Cardano. They did not say that about any crypto but Bitcoin. Bitcoin and the protocol removes that through no man involved in it. Right now, laws are imposed by man. You have to go to a court, and a judge who could be bribed, who could be corrupt, might actually be paid off to decide one way or the other. Bitcoin can't do that, right? So we're in so he knew that this was the nature of man. So the nature of man is to create a shitcoin, because that is a great way to get some sucker to give you money with which you can buy Bitcoin. Sticking to Bitcoin's been a great plan for El Salvador. I just checked out the latest tourism numbers. They're booming. They're off the chart. You know, things are happening. It's Bitcoin plus Bukele equals boom times, you know, because they're sticking. They're sticking with the top coin, the Bitcoin, and it's paying fantastically well. You know, the car is showing once you step out of the Bitcoin limelight, you're entering a world of pain. Sango is blood, so it's a blood sucker coin. It's the vampire coin. The Central African Republic, I believe, is the second poorest country in the world. Bring in Sango Coin, and it'll be the poorest country in the world, because all they've done is to facilitate the ability for colonizers to come in and steal all their natural resources with the bloodsucker Sango Coin. They say that it has something to do with Bitcoin. Of course it doesn't. If they wanted to join the elite class of hard money, they would simply go with Bitcoin, but that didn't last long because they didn't have the fortitude to stick with Bitcoin, and now they will pay the price. So property and plunder, the origins of shitcoins, is what I will call this next section, because in this age of not only the dollar coming to an end, and that was a tier one, layer one money replacing gold, which had ruled for 5,000 years. Then we had U.S. Treasuries, and the U.S. Treasuries decided to implode on February 26, 2022, when the U.S. seized the reserves of another nation. So therefore, the reserves were no longer money. It was no longer property. Now, Bastiat believed that property was something given to us by God, that this was life and liberty, and property were the rights that you had, all of them, and you couldn't remove one without removing the other. So this was primary. This was so important. This is a fundamental right. So when we look at, we've obviously talked about El Salvador and adopting the Bitcoin standard as unseizable, unconfiscatable, censorship-resistant property of the nation. Let's look at what happened with the Central African Republic. And the importance in this day of inflation, which is a form of plunder. It is printing money. The US gets to print money, and the other nations next to it, like Japan and Europe, get to print money as well, and basically seize the resources of other regions of the world for free, essentially. So we're going to look at what happened to CAR, the Central African Republic, when they announced a Bitcoin standard as well in April. Right away, immediately. Remember, man can work ceaselessly and work hard to build wealth, to build property. That is the origin of property. And then along comes those who do not want to work. They want to just take your money. So Central African Republic launches national cryptocurrency called Sango Coin. Sango Coin will be the next generation currency for the Central African Republic, President Touadera stated in his address. According to President Touadera, Sango Coin will act as the gateway to the natural resources of the Central African Republic. CAR's government previously announced plans to tokenize the country's natural resources, including petroleum, diamonds, and copper. But of course, it's an altcoin. It's a cryptocurrency. It's a shitcoin. It's not. There's no proof of work behind it. It's literally proof of stake attached to the natural resources of the economy.
Right, well, he's talking about wealth being generated from work, and the problem is these days we have a lot of wealth generated, but there's no work, right? So the so-called altcoin market is without work. The NFT market, there's no work involved. In various other pursuits of Wall Street, it's just workless environment of pushing buttons. This is creating an environment of lawlessness, and it's creating an environment of plunder. So it's interesting, he equates wealth with work, and he draws the analogy of work from nature. So in nature, like our friends here, the parrots, who believe that they're actually different birds than the targos / parrots, they have to work. They go hunting for worms. If they were not working for those worms or whatever they eat here in El Salvador, pupusas, probably.
Right, so Bastiat, Frederick Bastiat, who we talk about often, he wrote that essay in 1850 called The Law, and we quote it all the time about when, a group of men at the top of society become, seek to plunder, then they justify it through their laws. But in particular, what I want to talk about in this time where history is starting to rhyme, so history is important because we're seeing right now across the world similarities to the 2008, 2009 through 10 and 11 crisis. When we had the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, we started quantitative easing, massive money printing, and then 2 years later, we saw a huge unrest. We saw the Arab Spring. We saw all of that unrest caused by high oil prices, high food prices. So I want to look at something that's really important in this day and age when we have that again, when we have the unwinding of the US dollar, when we have a post February 26, 2022 era when the US seized the reserves of Russia. What I want to understand, for everybody out there to understand, is property and plunder. This is part of the law, the essay called The Law that Frederick Bastiat wrote in 1850.
So what are your thoughts about Central African Republic's decision to launch Sango Coin? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.